This is Eddie Hearn, Matchroom Boxing. You are watching Sporting Icons. You don't need to be anywhere else.
Okay, so ever since Matchroom Boxing and Eddie Hearn have announced that their shows will in fact now be exclusive with DAZN, as in leaving Sky Sports, they have said for quite some time that they want to be adding their own commentary team, their own pundits, their own lighting, everything and anything as to how the show is presented on our TV. They want to be hands-on, whereas on Sky Sports pretty much made all those kind of decisions. Eddie Hearn wants full hands-on. Basically, he wants full control of his boxing shows. So with DAZN, of course, here in the UK now, the very first fight night will be on Fight Camp 1, Eddie Hearn's Matchroom headquarters back garden, with Conor Benn versus Adrian Granados. So we've been expecting an announcement for quite some time as to who the commentators are, the pundits, etc., etc. And while some are very, very obvious, for me, I've just been thinking for quite some time now, while a change is good, of course change is good, but I need some familiarity. What I don't want is a whole new team that I don't know who they are, I don't know the voice, I don't know anything about them. But change is a must, okay? Because obviously a lot of people have been very unhappy with Sky Sports, with BT Sport, and most platforms that will provide commentary and punditry work for our boxing, where of course you're always going to get some bias. Because at the end of the day, on this particular case, DAZN is their platform, okay? Their fighters are their fighters, okay? So they're going to big them up, and there's no getting away from it, all right? So, but either way, we still need a bit of a familiarity. I know a lot of people were saying, well, maybe Adam Smith will go across and whatever else. Now, of course, I knew Adam Smith wasn't going to go across, or at least, who knows? As of a couple of weeks ago, it's pretty set in concrete that he wasn't. I knew that much, but you never know, you never know. Either way, Matchroom, Eddie Hearn have announced 7 new members to their punditry and commentary team, and they are as such: Mike Costello, Jama, not too sure, Tony Bellew, Laura Woods, Andy Lee, Darren Barker, and Chris Lloyd. Now, of course, a couple of names that we knew was going to be part of this team: Tony Bellew, Darren Barker, and Chris Lloyd. We knew those 3 were definitely a shoe-in for various reasons. Number one, they're all good at their job. That's the first one. People don't have too many complaints about them. Of course, some people just don't like, say, Tony Bellew because he's Eddie Hearn's friend. Because, yes, he is very, very biased when it comes to Matchroom shows, when it comes to the fact that he's Eddie Hearn's best friend, isn't he? Tony Bellew is very grateful for the opportunities that Eddie Hearn and Matchroom, of course, have given him. Of course, it reached the pinnacle by becoming WBC Cruiserweight World Champion, and, of course, setting up him and his family for life financially. So he's always going to be very grateful. But of course, him being from Liverpool, yes, he's going to have biases. There's nothing wrong with biases. But what you do need is a counteraction to it. Sky Sports didn't really have that. Now they will with Tony Bellew, with Andy Lee being in the opposite corner. Whereas Andy Lee, he's very much not biased. He's really not. Or at least he hadn't been on Sky Sports. And maybe that's one of the reasons why he never really hung around with Sky Sports for too long. But for me, anyway, to go back onto Tony Bellew, I like Tony Bellew. I've liked him for a long time. I've always been a huge fan of his for his boxing. I like how he commentates. I like how he breaks down fights and whatever else. But of course, he manages my very good pal in April Hunter as well. So again, I am going to be biased with this appointment. Sorry, but I am. But with Andy Lee, the only kind of maybe critique we may have is the fact that firstly, his cousin and obviously very, very close with Tyson Fury, who of course is not a DAZN fighter. That's going to be the first one. So in some ways you could say he'll be the complete opposite to Tony Bellew. So if and when Anthony Joshua, Tony and Tyson Fury ever fight, they're going to be on opposite sides of the field. So you're going to get perspective from both ends, whereas Tony Bellew is going to be very, very biased when it comes to Anthony Joshua. Andy Lee is going to be very, very biased when it comes to Tyson Fury. Of course, he was part of Tyson Fury's camp, when in fact he has been for quite some time. Of course, he's known Tyson Fury for many years, but he was part of the camp for the Wilder 2 rematch. But of course, he's a full-time trainer as well. Joseph Parker, of course, one of his most recent additions, maybe the most recent addition, I'm not too sure. So he's got a lot on his plate, but now him being part of DAZN, I think a lot of people are happy with that, because a lot of people are quite happy with the fact that he did say what he felt on Sky Sports. Okay, so it is almost like a yin and the yang when it's going to come to Tony Bellew and Andy Lee. Of course, these guys will be part of the punditry team. And of course, both can be part of the commentary team as well. Now, as far as Laura Woods is concerned, a lot of people will be very familiar with her if you've been watching Sky Sports. So it does surprise me a little bit with this one, unless, of course, her contract has expired with Sky Sports, or maybe Matchroom DAZN bought out her contract. I don't know. But again, her voice, I like her voice. I don't know why. I do like it. It's that kind of husky kind of voice. But a lot of people will know her from Sky Sports. So again, very good appointment. Jama. Now, I don't really know who she was until like a few days ago when I was watching, after the England game, the Peter Crouch show. Of course, she's opposite Peter Crouch, doing like some kind of presenting and whatever else. So I don't really know too much about her until that point. But of course, I have heard that is she married to some guy called Stormzy, or in a relationship, or was? I don't really know. Stormzy, I've heard the name, but I don't really know the music or anything like that. I know he's a musician. It's not my kind of music, so I don't really know. So apologies for that. For me, if it's not heavy metal or rock, I wouldn't know who's who. But she's now going to be part of that team. I'm presuming some kind of pundit, maybe interviewing fighters, that kind of thing. Whereas I would imagine that it would be Laura Woods, who would be almost like the Anna Woolhouse. Whereas she will sit next to, say, Tony Bellew and maybe Andy Lee and that, and ask them their opinions about certain fights coming up and break down the fights afterwards and whatever else. I imagine that'd be her role. Maya, I would imagine, will be interviewing. But again, I could be totally wrong. I could be totally off with that one. Now, with Chris Lloyd, Darren Barker, of course, Darren Barker, he's married into the family of Matchroom, so that was no surprise. And Chris Lloyd, I like Chris Lloyd. I like his TKO with Carl Frampton. So for me, very, very happy with that appointment. And of course, Mike Costello. For those of you who don't know the name Mike Costello, maybe you haven't seen the face of Mike Costello, you sure as hell would have heard the voice, especially on BBC Radio. In fact, he's been there for quite some time for the boxing, for the athletics. In fact, he was part of the Olympic commentary team as well of 2004, I believe it was. In fact, he replaced John Rawlin on BBC Radio. But it's a very good appointment because, again, it goes back to what it is I'm talking about, familiarity, where some of these, we are very familiar with who they are. But of course, we needed some kind of change. Mike Costello is that kind of change, but also familiarity. A lot of people will be very, very happy with Mike Costello on lead commentary. But is he going to be unbiased? Because a lot of people are very unhappy with the biases. He's going to be unbiased for sure, but he's also going to be pro DAZN. That's his job. That's who pays him his wages. You can't get away from it. You really can't. But Mike Costello, I think, is a very, very good appointment. I like the fact that he was actually one of the front and center people investigating the effects on a boxer's brain after they get knocked out. So for me, that tells me that he cares about boxing. He cares about fighters. But either way, familiarity is very, very important. So of course, there are some familiar names here for all of us. In fact, I think most of us probably know who most of these are. If not, everyone barring maybe one or two, right? Anyway, so that is Matchroom's announcement for their DAZN UK broadcasting team. Drop your thoughts below, click thumbs up, subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next video.